The boat that you are travelling on today is the Silver Bonito, operated by Wood Silver Fleet. There are toilets located downstairs, situated at the back of the boat near where you entered. For the comfort of all our guests, level and in the locker on the upper deck, clearly marked with green signs. All exits are clearly marked. From the lower saloon, there are doors at both sides of the vessel, or you can exit through the sliding windows. The upper deck is easily accessible by steps either side of the lobby. In the unlikely event of an emergency, the captain will give you full instructions.
Good morning, welcome aboard your last minute stop on the London Eye River Cruise. If you're on the top deck, turn around, I'm giving you a wave. Hello! My name's Harrison, I'm going to be your tour guide today. We've got our amazing captains in the wheelhouse, making sure we don't have any Titanic moments. Joining me downstairs is my colleague, Hannah. Either of us are happy to answer any questions. Two very important housekeeping rules, folks. If you are on the top deck, please do remain seated at all times. This is our captains can see where they're going. Rule number 2, folks, this is the only time in London where you will be able to wave a complete and utter stranger and get a 5-fingered wave back. If you try this anywhere else, i.e. the tube, chances are they'll use maybe 1 or 2 fingers. So as we pass under Westminster Bridge shortly, give them a wave, give them an "Oi, oi!" Here we go, folks. First bridge of the day. Give them a wave. We guarantee that everybody that's waving is checking your phone. London is interested to enjoy you, or maybe give you some different hand gestures. So as we pass under Westminster Bridge, off to the right is the Houses of Parliament. The Houses of Parliament are actually called the New Palace of Westminster. It is known as the New Palace because there was an old palace that unfortunately burnt down. Originally it was a royal residence. It was a palace constructed by King Canute, and it was a royal residence all the way up till Henry VIII. He moved out into the Palace of Whitehall, so we all know how much he likes to move about, just ask his wives. Once he moved out, he handed the New Palace of Westminster over to Parliament, establishing the first medieval Houses of Parliament. In the early 1800s, the Exchequer ordered 2 carts of tally sticks to be burned in the basement to warm up the building. This caused a massive fire, and most of the medieval buildings burnt down, with the exception of Westminster Hall. While Parliament was burning, Londoners gathered on the south side of the river, whooping and cheering, watching Parliament burn. They weren't helping out, they were chanting, "Burn, Parliament, burn." One man was even arrested for excessive cheering. Now, as you look to the right, you can see 2 gazebos, one red and one green. These are the lunchtime cafeterias for the House of Commons and the House of Lords. This green and red colour structure is apparent elsewhere. We just passed under Westminster Bridge, painted green, and just further down the river we have Lambeth Bridge, painted red. Inside you'll find red benches, green benches, different back rooms, different pubs, bars, barbers. This is so that they can keep the House of Commons and the House of Lords separate. It is believed by keeping the 2 houses separate that this will prevent corruption. I I'll let you guys figure out how well that all works. Now you can see a small set of stairs there with a hut. That is Blackrod Steps. Blackrod is the person inside the Parliament that is in charge of security. The most famous person to stay in that little hut would have been Guy Fawkes after he tried to blow up Parliament. He was captured, spent the night in that little prison. That is the smallest prison in England, folks. After spending a night in there, he was taken down those steps, put into a little rowing boat, and he sailed down the Thames to the Tower of London. The very same journey, folks, that we are going to be taking today. Hopefully, though, ours won't end in public execution. I make no promises, though. Now, as we come around, you get some great views of Parliament. Parliament has three main towers, folks. The tallest tower with the Union flag on top, off to the left, is the Victoria Tower. This was the original royal entrance to Parliament. However, today it is home to the Parliamentary Archives, where all the bills passed in Parliament since the 1800s are stored. It is the only entirely fireproof part of Parliament, as to ensure the safekeeping of all these records. In the middle, you've got that central spire, that is known as the Central Tower. This was originally to act as a chimney to allow all the hot air from the politicians to escape. We may be lucky enough to see some MPs out on the balcony today. If you do, feel free to give them a wave, or any other hand gesture you deem appropriate. I won't judge. Now, put your hands up for me if you can see Big Ben. Yeah, you can see Big Ben? Well, either you all have X-ray vision, or you're just lying to me. What you can see is the Elizabeth Tower. Big Ben is the 13.5-ton bell that sits inside the clock tower. It allegedly gets its name from the chap who was the commissioner of the works at the time the tower was built. A guy by the name of Sir Benjamin Hall. It is said that a lot like the bell, he was loud and round. Apparently, when the bell arrived on the site, his workers went, "Oi, Ben! That bell looks just like you!" Let's just all be thankful that he wasn't called Richard. Now, as we pass under Westminster Bridge for a second time, I am going to indulge in some shameless self-promotion, folks. Off to the right is the lastminute.com London Eye. Standing at 135 metres tall, it is the largest cantilevered observation wheel in the world. It is a cantilevered observation wheel and not a Ferris wheel. My manager doesn't like me using the F word at work. It is a cantilevered observation wheel because it is held up on only one side. An observation wheel because the pods are on the outside and not the inside. On the Eye you will find 32 pods, and they are numbered 1 through 33. Now don't worry folks, there's no mystery hidden secret pod. There's just no pod number 13, because apparently when you are 135 metres tall, you need all the help you can get. Now on the Eye we have something known as the Cupid's Pod. This is where romantic couples can go, drink some nice champagne and rosé, and eat some fancy chocolates. This has become the unofficial proposal pod, however, as since opening the Eye has seen roughly 6,000 marriage proposals, and unfortunately for some, 14 rejections. And as you can imagine, folks, it's very slow, you wait to come down from the top. But as we all know, marriage is made up of 3 important rings. Now the next set of bridges is the Golden Jubilee Walkway and the Hungerford Rail Bridge. The Hungerford Rail Bridge leads over there into Charing Cross Station. Although there's been a train station on that site for around 103 years, the building you see on top is relatively new. It was designed to look like a steam train emerging from a tunnel surrounded by smoke. If you can see that, you're doing a much better job than me. I just think it looks like a big toaster. Building there, the Royal Festival Hall, is the last remaining building from the 1950s celebration of Festival of Britain. Today it is home to the likes of the London Philharmonic Orchestra, one of the best philharmonias in the world. Next to that we've got the Queen Elizabeth Hall and the Purcell Room. These are some exhibition galleries. My favourite part, however, is down below. Underneath there is the Undercroft. You may be able to see some graffiti there at the bottom. That is the UK's oldest skate park. Built back in the 1970s. If you went over there today, you would find people skateboarding, listening to drum and bass, painting on the walls, and most definitely smoking some illicit substances. That on the folks is Waterloo Bridge, more commonly referred to by Londoners as the Ladies' Bridge. Can I get over here? It is called the Ladies' Bridge because during the Second World War, the original bridge was destroyed. And as the men were fighting for king and country, it was the ladies of London who had to rebuild the bridge. It is for this reason that Waterloo Bridge is the only bridge here in London to be completed on time and under budget. Now off to the right there, you get a great example of brutalist architecture here in London. It is the National Theatre. Those towers you see are practical, they are used for flying in and out different pieces of set. Inside the National, you can see great quality shows at reasonable prices. Quite often a West End show will go in there before getting a West End transfer. You can see West End quality shows without having to pay the West End prices. It was once described by King Charles III as looking at the back end of a nuclear power station. And as we all know, Charles III is the prowess in all things good luck. Up ahead to the right, you may be able to see a red brick building with a grey tower on it. That is the Oxo building. For those of you who don't know, Oxo is a stock and seasoning company here in the UK. Anyone visiting who's been unfortunate enough to try any of our cuisine, you'll know we need all the help we can get. When the tower was constructed in 1930, they were immediately taken to court. This is because it was illegal to advertise on a royal highway. Now, skyline advertising on a royal highway, that's well illegal, mate. Now they either had a very good lawyer or just a very dumb judge, and this was their defence. Oh, I don't know, mate, we just ordered some random circles and stripes. By some miracle, they won their case. They were allowed to keep the tower. The lawyer got a big pay rise. The judge never worked again. It said that he became a bit of a laughing stock. They don't get any better, folks. Now up ahead is the area known as Blackfriars. Blackfriars gets its name from a Dominican priory of monks that were located at a monastery on the north side of the river. They would wear black mantles over their robes, which were termed Blackfriars. In Blackfriars we have 2.5 bridges. We'll shortly be passing under them. As we pass under the Red Road Bridge up ahead, pay attention to the stonework you can see. On this side you'll be able to see some freshwater ducks, or what look like bird bands. On the other side of this bridge, you'll see saltwater birds. This is because this is where the Victorians believed that the saltwater and the freshwater mixed here in the Thames. We do now, however, know this not to be the case, as this happened a few miles that way in Richmond. It's fine that at the end of the day, it is all just water under the bridge. Now, Harrison, I hear you crying, what are these mysterious red pillars? Well, I'll tell you all about them on the way back. Now, as we pass on the Blackfriars Station, you get some cracking views of St Paul's Cathedral off to the left. St Paul's is the 5th iteration of this cathedral. It is the 2nd largest stone cathedral in the world. St Paul's, designed and built by Sir Christopher Wren after the Great Fire of London, stands 365 feet tall. The original design plans were to have a 60-foot pineapple on top of the dome. Thankfully though, this was moved away from as they went, Chris, we know what you're going for, just traditional cross. And they went with that, thankfully. Now there's a bit of debate. You can see those 2 golden orbs up to the left, also designed by Christopher Wren as part of St Paul's. Some people think that they are acorns, as he was a Freemason. Other people think that they are versions of pineapples. So maybe we'll just leave some pineapples in there. You may also notice that there are no tall buildings by St Paul's, and it's because there are some rather peculiar bylaws here in London to say you must be able to see the dome of St Paul's from 8 key locations across the city. Now, off to the side, you can see a brown, white building with a thatched roof. This is Shakespeare's Globe. Built all the way back, folks, in 1997. I said it's a recreation of the highest order. When American director Sam Wanamaker came over looking for the monuments to the Great Playwright, he was shocked when he found nothing but a blue plaque on the wall. He decided he was going to rebuild the globe using all the traditional methods. That is the only building here in London to have a thatched roof. This thatched was outlawed after the Great Fire. In order to be allowed that roof, they had to gain royal assent and implement some fire-resistant material in the roof. Going off to the right, you can see a small building with some red windows. That is the Anchor Tavern. There has been a tavern on that site for around 600 years, folks. The likes of William Shakespeare, Samuel Pepys, Charles Dickens all dragged in there. It is said that Dickens wrote some of his best ghost stories in those windows. It's said that he took a lot of inspiration from the numerous spirits behind the bar. Now, the Rusty Freelance was up ahead in a real life Irish chef. Off to the right there, behind us, stepping in the top, is the recreation of Francis Drake's galleon. He set sail from Plymouth and went down to Portugal and Spain. I can't blame him, I've been to Plymouth, I also wanted to leave. When down in Spain, he stole about £23 million worth of gold. Not wanting to come home and face the consequences, he just kept sailing. In doing this, he accidentally became the first Brit to circumnavigate the globe. 3 years later, when he did return, how do we punish him for his heinous crimes? We didn't, we knighted him and gave him a nice place to stay. This is because he had accumulated enough wealth to pay off England's national debt 3 times over. Now, folks, coming up just ahead is the world famous London Bridge. The world famous London Bridge is right behind me. Often mistaken further down the river, Tower Bridge, London Bridge is a history that spans almost 2,000 years. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Now, carrying up a bustle to the right is Brent's London Yard. Conceived in 1998 and completed in 2018, it is the tallest skyscraper here in Western Europe. It stands at 94 stories tall. Inside you find the likes of luxury hotels, luxury restaurants and bars, offices and apartments. To buy an apartment inside the Shard, all you need is to spend £43.5 million. For that money, you can't open your window and you're not even allowed a pet. Inside there's 74 floors. I can guarantee if I was in there, there'd be 75. Now, the very evil-eyed amongst you may have spotted it. It is a bit hard to see now as it is currently camouflaged, but to the right is HMS Belfast, an 11,500 ton battle cruiser, folks. Belfast was constructed in the same docks as the Titanic. She is doing amazingly though as she is still afloat. She has 2 very notable performances in her career. One being, she was the first ship to open fire on D-Day. 2, she played a pivotal part in sinking one of Adolf Hitler's favourite ships, the Scharnhorst. Because I think if there's one thing that we can all agree on, folks, it's that Adolf Hitler doesn't deserve nice things. Now, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. If you're on the top deck, please do just bring your seats over me. Now, up ahead, Tower Bridge. Tower Bridge designed in the late 1800s by Sir Horace Jones. It was built to complement the Tower of London. The real bridge is in the standard, yes, but that's so much purely cosmetic. The Victorian bastions you see in the centre used to raise and lower 40 times a day. Nowadays, you're lucky if you get one twice a day. I've spoken to the GP, said there's some cosmetic today. Now, there is a bell to the sail limit. If as you can pass under Tower Bridge, if you get away from the middle of the bridge, you are supposed to get 5 years to move up. So as you pass under the bridge, give them away, give them an oh no! So know that to your Jones family, you take them every year to come out and wave at us. Now, as we pass on the Tower Bridge, we do enter into the old port of London. At the height of the British Empire, this was the busiest port in the world. It is said that you'll be able to walk from the south side of the river to the north without even getting your feet wet. Now, as you come around, it is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's of course the picture of Tower Bridge at London. You may be lucky, you may get a double-decker bus. Just be sure, folks, later on tonight when you post these pictures on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is that you use, that you use all the right hashtags. Hashtag Tower Bridge into the tower, where he would have been subject to a whole manner of different forms of torture. He was in there for about a week and a half before he became the first and only commoner to ever be executed inside the tower. Normally that was a right reserved for the royals, however they thought he was so heinous that he didn't deserve a public execution. All the other executions happen just outside and up on the Tower Hill there. If you want to visit the Tower of London, please do, we highly recommend it. Once inside though, don't pay for a tour. Just speak to a member of the Yeoman Ward, better known as the Beefeaters. They'll be happy to show you around. They've got lots and lots of knowledge. They do have a saying, you're supposed to get 10 years good luck if you tip any tour guide that you find here in London.
Right.
Now up ahead to the right you can see a tower with a golden orb on it. That is Christopher Wren's The Monument. Wren built around 103 structures here in London after the Great Fire. The monument was his first. This was both to act as a monument to the fire itself, but also to act as an observation tower for Londoners to go up to the top and watch their city being rebuilt around them. This is because in the fire around 80% of the city burnt down. Inside you'll find 311 steps, and there is even a flame at the top that is still burning to this day. As I said folks, you can go up to the top. Just be warned, it is 311 steps, so by the time you get to the top, London won't be the only thing that's burning, so will your thighs. Now up to the right there you can see one of London's financial districts. Here in London we have a little weird tradition of nicknaming our skyscrapers. That one that you can see there on the right, that is the Scalpel. Called Scalpel because it looks like a scalpel. Next to that you got the cheese grater. Called the cheese grater because it looks like a cheese grater. My favourite though is the walkie-talkie boat. Called the walkie-talkie because you can see where this tradition goes. Now this large obtuse building in the front there, my favourite for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, it's got a bar in it. Instantly very high up the list. Reason number 2, it's got a rooftop garden. You can see the people up there on the balcony looking down at us. It's free to enter, you just got to book a time slot, it's really cool. Reason number 3 though, on a hot sunny day in 2013, sun reflected off the curved front down onto the street below and melted a banker's Porsche. Don't worry folks, I said banker with a B, don't worry. Now, we are about to go back under London Bridge. London Bridge history, as I said earlier, spans 2,000 years. And that's a lot of history in not a lot of rivers, so let's get into it. The first version of the bridge was a pontoon crossing constructed by the Romans. This later got turned into a wooden bridge which fell down. So they built a stone bridge, which fell down. So they built another stone bridge, which fell down. So the Victorians built a stone bridge which started to fall down. And do you know what we did when that one started to fall down, folks? We sold it to the Americans. You can find a version of London Bridge currently residing over Lake Havasu, Arizona. This bridge was built in the 70s. It's not as impressive as any of our previous ones. The most famous bridge is the medieval bridge. Between the years of 1305 and 1660, these 7 heads of traitors were displayed on the south side of the bridge. The likes of William Wallace, Oliver Cromwell, Charles I all had their heads displayed on that side of the bridge. For any Americans on board, if you look off to the left there you can see a church. That is Southwark Cathedral. That is where John Harvard, the founder of Harvard University, was actually baptised. Now, seeing as it is low tide at the moment guys, you can see some great old woodwork on the river. A lot of the woodwork and the port work that you're seeing in the river dates back to the Victorian, some of it even dates back to the Roman eras. Now as we found under Cannon Street Rail Bridge, there's nothing interesting that I can tell you about the bridge itself. It's green, that's about it, it's cranes. So I like to point out the sauna there. Those windows that you can see under the bridge are actually a sauna. When they were installed, it was meant to have one-way facing windows. The builders didn't quite understand the assignment, and they put them in the wrong way down. Now folks, up ahead is my favourite bridge on the river. It is Southwark Bridge. Southwark Bridge is otherwise known as the Lonely Bridge. Can I get an R? It's sadder than that. Can I get an R? It is called the Lonely Bridge because it is the bridge here in London with the lowest footfall and the lowest road traffic. So I guarantee folks, anybody we see up there today is lost. It is also a bit of a movie star, as Walt Disney used Southwark Bridge in his original film as Mary Poppins. He used it as an on-screen double for London Bridge, as he thought London Bridge was boring, Southwark Bridge was beautiful. It is also the last bridge here in London to use gas-powered streetlights, so in the evening you'll get lots of couples going up there to get nice pictures. Although if you think a bridge is a good idea for a date, Southwark Bridge won't be the only thing that's lonely. Now off to the left there you can see a towering chimney. This is the former Bankside power station. Closed in the 1980s due to the high amount of pollution it was spewing out. Reopened in 2011 as a great modern art gallery. Both of our museums and galleries here in London are free at the point of entry. If you want any tips on where to go, come and ask. Inside the Tate Modern you will find the world's largest collection of modern art. If modern art isn't your thing, don't worry. Go inside, go up to the top, they've got a bar. I'm sure after a few drinks the modern art might appeal to you just a little bit more. If the art however starts to speak to you, please put the drink down and go home. Now up ahead we have the Millennium Bridge. But if you ask any Londoner the name of that bridge, they'll be like, nah mate, that's not the Millennium Bridge, that's the Wobbly Bridge, isn't it? That is because when this bridge opened, it swayed from side to side, giving people on it motion sickness, tripping them up so bad that after 3 days they had to close the bridge. The bridge was closed for 2 years while they brought in NASA engineers to install dampeners. When questioned about it, the architect of the bridge went, it's not my fault, it's Londoners. They don't walk, they march. Now, are there any fans of Harry Potter on the boat today? Any fans of Marvel? Well, you may recognise the bridge from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince as we get to see it destroyed by Death Eaters. Additionally, we get to see it destroyed in Guardians of the Galaxy on Xandar. We also get to see the bridge destroyed in London Has Fallen. I'm seeing a bit of a trend. I think if you see that bridge in a film, don't get attached. Now, the star of the Harry Potter films, Daniel Radcliffe, actually studied at the City of London School for Boys. So really folks, when you think about it, that boring brick building is the real life Hogwarts. Not quite as impressive as the castle, is it? Now off to the left you can see the newest addition to London's skyline. That is One Blackfriars Place. We haven't quite decided on a firm nickname for this one yet. A few favourites: the boomerang, the cocktail shaker, the cigarette lighter. My personal favourite, however, is the Kim Kardashian. And that is, of course, because of its amazing assets. But I'll leave you all to make your own assumptions. Now, the next bridge is Blackfriars Station. It is the only train station in the world to be on top of a river. It is the only train station in the world to have an entrance on both sides of the river. That slanted roofing that you can see on the top there, that is for solar panels, so on a hot sunny day, it is powered by the sun. On the other 364 days of the year, it's powered by the National Grid. Now we are back at those mysterious pillars. These are the remains of the St Paul's Steam Railway Bridge that connected London to Chatham and Dover. I'll talk a little bit more about it once I pass under this bridge. So, St Paul's Rail Bridge, used by the Victorians up until they invented diesel trains. Diesel trains were a bit too heavy and the bridge started to break. They demolished the top half, built 2 new bridges, went to demolish the second half, realised they built them too well, couldn't safely destroy them without using dynamite. If they'd done this, that would have damaged the other 2 bridges. So they decided to paint them red, slap a grade 2 listing on them, and just hope nobody noticed. I go past those poles 8 times a day. I point them out every single time. Now, onto the right, you can see some barges, cranes, construction work. Because we're having some work done here in London. Is it for a brand new tube station? No. Is it for a new skyscraper? Oh no. What you are looking at, folks, is work on London's brand new super sewer. Because only Londoners could call our sewage super. But let's be honest, we are full of it. So this sewer system is intended to replace our current Victorian one. It is said that when it is completed, you will be able to park 2 double-decker buses side by side. The Victorian system that we have currently runs down either side of the Thames and, believe it or not, is full of sewage. Before that, raw human sewage just used to flow down the Thames. A lot like what we're doing now, folks. Raw human sewage just used to flow in the Thames up until a particularly hot sunny day in the 1880s, when the sun caused the sewage in the Thames to ferment. This, folks, created two things. Thing number one, a really bad smell. Thing number two, the worst alcohol in London. The smell got so bad, folks, that they had to close Parliament. And as we all know, nothing gets sorted until it bothers a politician. So they commissioned this Victorian sewer system, which actually reduced the width of the Thames quite significantly. It's the embankments that we can see are actually the sewer system. That subsequently increased the flow of the Thames, quite literally flushing it out. So by show of hands, folks, who thinks that the Thames is a clean river? Well, I can see one hand there at the back. You are correct. The Thames is the cleanest metropolitan river in the world. It is home to 150 different types of marine wildlife. In the river, you'll find seahorses, eels, jellyfish, seals, sharks, whales. Late on Saturday night, there may even be a few mermaids in there. I was lucky enough to see a seal the other day down by HMS Belfast. I'm told he was a Navy SEAL. Now off to the right we have the Victorian Bank that runs all the way down from Bank. You may be able to see these lion heads with the rings in their mouth. These are the old Victorian mooring stations. Now, however, they don't serve as mooring points, we just use them as a flood warning system. There's a handy little rhyme that helps us remember. Here's how it goes. If the lions are drinking, London is sinking. If the lions are ducks, London is flooded. Flooded. London is flooded. Oh, yep. Now, on the right, we are going to be going past Somerset House. Somerset House, another one of London's many art galleries, home to the likes of Van Gogh, Picasso, Monet, formerly a registry office where people would go to register births, marriages and deaths, known as the Hatcham, Matcham and Dispatcham. Now, as I did mention, that the Thames is quite a quick flowing river. It flows at 6 knots. That makes it quite a dangerous river. About a metre below the surface, there are violent undercurrents, so please don't go in the river. If you do find yourself in the river, fear not, we have 4 lifeboat stations on the Thames. Our newest one, on the right there, Tower Lifeboat Station. Now, the average call-outs for a coastal lifeboat station here in the UK is 200 call-outs per year. The average call-out station for Tower Lifeboat Station in a year is 400 calls in a year. So you're safe, but please don't go in the river. It's very dangerous. Now, as we pass under Waterloo Bridge, off to the right, you can see London's first built purpose luxury hotel. Those green tiles and the flag, that is the Savoy Hotel. Seen the likes of Charlie Chaplin, Marilyn Monroe, all the way up to Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift. You can spend a night in there. All you need is £18,000 to spend a night in their royal suite. There's a 3-night minimum stay. For your money, you get access to a butler, a Bentley taxi service, even your own private therapist. Because let's be honest, folks, if you can afford £18,000 a night for a hotel, you need a therapist. Just in front of the Savoy is Cleopatra's Needle. This is the oldest artefact on the river. It is 3,500 years old. The most amazing thing about Cleopatra's Needle isn't that it tried to escape twice while being brought over by ship, isn't that it's 3,500 years old, folks. No. The most amazing thing about that needle, in my opinion, is we didn't steal it. It is the only part of Egyptology here in the UK that isn't stolen. It was a gift after the British Navy helped defeat Napoleon's forces at the Battle of the Nile. 3 years later, they also gifted us the 2 Sphinx that you can see on either side. However, when we installed them facing the wrong way, so instead of guarding the needle, it just looks like they're having a chin wag. Now, as we pass under the Golden Jubilee walkway one more time, this is your last chance to get your waves in, get your oi oi! And it does sadly mean that the toilets are closed, as we will be back soon. So give them a wave, oi oi! do like to recommend that while you're in our lovely, lovely city, take your earphones out, look up from your phone, and take in some of our best street performers. We have some amazing street performers, street acts, buskers. Honestly, they're great. Now, up ahead on the right, you can see a white building with some green tiling and flags. That is the Ministry of Defence. Now, we call this building the iceberg because what you can see is just the tip. It descends far below the ground in a network of nuclear bunkers known as the nuclear citadel. This is where the government and royal family would flee in the event of a nuclear war. We're not invited, sadly, however, I'm not too bothered. I don't really fancy sharing a room with Rishi Sunak at the moment. The Ministry of Defence actually took us to court when the Eye first opened, as they were afraid that foreign spies were going to board the Eye and look into their offices with binoculars and telescopes. This was rather thrown out of court rather quickly, however, as the judge said, "You're literally the Ministry of Defence, buy some curtains," and they did. It's closed. And now the last building on our tour, County Hall, folks, that building there just behind the Eye. Originally home to London's mayors before Margaret Thatcher, please don't boo, decided to close it in the 1980s and move them down the river. Today it is the home to Merlin Entertainments here in London, home to the likes of Shrek's Adventure, Sea Life London, the London Onions, and of course the lastminute.com London Eyes. On the Eye we have something known as the Champagne Experiences. You can book a champagne experience today, go up into the ticket hall, say Harrison sent you for a champagne experience, and they'll be able to help you out. Now, while we're docking, I do just want to ask, if you are on the top deck, please do remain seated. I'll give you the go-ahead when it's safe to come down. A very big thank you from me, on behalf of myself and the crew. You've been awesome. If you've had a good time today, please do leave us a review on TripAdvisor. It really helps us out. If you've enjoyed yourself, my name's been Harrison. Thank you very much. If you've had a bad time, my name's been Chris. Get off the boat. And finally, I will be stood down at the bottom of the stairs as you exit, happy to receive any form of gratuity, whether that be a high five, a fist bump, or even just a bye.